Hey, yo, welcome back to Right at the Wire. Well, today we're going to look at the late pick five for Saturday's card at Churchill Downs. So let's get into it. So we're looking at the Churchill Downs late pick five for Saturday, and it comprises races 7 through 11. The first leg is the seventh race, and it's a maiden special weight run at 6 furlongs for 2-year-old fillies. And if we take a look at this field, um, right off the bat, we look for the speed is likely going to be Summer in Tahoe, who broke very well in her initial effort and was on the engine and just faded late. You always like to see that. Um, it shows potential anyway. And, obviously keyed up first start, but you like to see that good break and likely can learn to manage her speed a little better with a race under her. So, second time out, Summer in Tahoe might be able to hang around a little longer. Beautiful Mischief, I thought, did very well in the last start. It was on turf, but the thing more than anything is how sharply she broke out of the gate and kept on, got a good second, was no match for the winner, but I think it showed a lot of improvement over that initial start that was on dirt. And I don't think it necessarily that her first start was nothing to write home about, was any indication that dirt isn't something that she doesn't like. I think it was just her first start. So obviously improved quite a bit in the second start. And if she moves forward here, I think would be a prime win candidate. Bedazzlem had broke a little slow in the debut, but kept on well. And I thought displayed some really good kick coming in to the stretch and got a pretty good fifth. But the main thing was that she persisted. And so that's definitely something you can build on with the second start. So I think Bedazzle costing 750K. There's obviously some expectations here, and I expect her to improve and probably ought to be a prime win candidate. Wonder of You is a firster, and the sire is Army Mule, who's just been a great sire, and he's 18% first time, and the dam is a 15. Dam sire is 15%. So there's a lot of precocity with this one. The tab looks good. And Greg Foley is not known for firsters, but his barn is firing really well right now. So I think we don't want to leave off the docket. And if could there's no overwhelming favorite here in my opinion. So this Wonder of You is definitely a horse that could steal this one, coming off the bench first time. The next two I put in here, they're both firsters, and I put a dollar sign by them because I don't think I'd want to consider them unless I had a price. The main reason is neither trainer, respectively, Cherie DeVoe or Brendan Walsh, are known for first time starters. Fantoma shows a pretty decent tab, and I think is one that you can give a look to. Um, you know, the main reason is that Distorted Humor is the sire, and he's a 15% first time starter sire. Like I say, Cherie DeVoe, not known for firsters, but the tab looks decent. So if I'm going to, she's the appeal primarily because she's had such a nice year, and but I want a price if I'm going to use her. Hope Mission, kind of the same thing. Brendan Walsh is the trainer, Godolphin, Tyler Gaffleone, and if this was a graded stakes race on the turf, we'd be considering very seriously. But this is a first-time starter for a maiden. Brendan Walsh not necessarily known for first-time starters, and this one's parked out in the 12 hole. So a fairly tall task for the first-time starter. If I was to use price dependent for me. If I had to choose one horse in here I like the most, I think it's probably Bedazzlem or Beautiful Mischief, one of those two, but it's a maiden, so you never know. Second leg of the late pick five is the eighth race, and it's a $30,000 claimer for non-winners of two lifetime, run at 6 furlongs for 3-year-olds and up. And this is an interesting race. From the from the list, Fan the Fire is one that looks really logical, but I want to point out a couple of things. Yes, it's Joe Sharp, and yes, it's Tyler Gaffalione, uh, but this one looks to me like a horse that's kind of dressed up more than anything else. Um, he missed his whole 3-year-old year, and then he showed a little bit of promise prior to that, but now he comes back for a tag. And that's a red flag right away. It looks like they've been trying to unload this one for like 3 starts. So is he in a place where he can win? Yeah, possibly. But the more likely answer to the question is that he's in this race to be sold. And are all of them? Of course. But they're dressing him up to get him out of their barn, and that's the way it looks to me. So I'm not. If I'm going to use Fan the Fire, I need to have a price. Lupo's Legacy was one that he's coming off an extended freshening, and it's the second off the layoff. I think the drop in class and the cutback in distance will both help. And he had kind of an early spurt off the layoff in his in the last race, and that's usually a pretty good sign that the next start he's going to run a good race. So I think Lupo's Legacy is a good fit here, and one I think we ought to consider. Magnificent Mile is pretty interesting. Is that he cost $800,000 and now he's running for 30, which you don't see too often, and that would normally be a major league red flag to be like, why would you even touch this horse? He can't cost that much, and now he's running for, a scintilla of it. But since he broke his maiden 3 back, he's improved, and he's shown improved effort. So I think the light bulb went off. He had a good second in his starter allowance last time. And, the fact that he's improving against winners, I think is also a really good sign. And he's a good fit here. And are they trying to unload him? Sure, probably. But he can still win this race, and he's showing good form, and that's the most important thing. So I think Magnificent Mile, while not, this is more like your 3-1 favorite type of optimism I'm showing. So, he's a good fit here, but am I over the moon with him? Not necessarily. But in this field, it's not the greatest of fields. I think he looks pretty good. Forever Cool was in decent form with a maiden win and then a third versus 50,000. But he broke slow in the last, but he didn't do bad, and it was a good field that he ran against, and it was certainly a better field than what he's facing here. So the cut in class, I think, is definitely going to help his chances. And he wasn't that bad. And he's been competitive at 50,000. He got a third, a couple back. So I think the drop makes sense here. He'd be one I want to consider. I think Magnificent Mile is probably my prime choice to win this race. But Forever Cool and Lupo's Legacy, I think, have a shot too. Fan the Fire, it's really price dependent with me whether I even use this horse at all. Leg 3 is the 9th race. It's an optional claimer for 100,000. Non-winners of 3 lifetime at a mile and a 16th on the turf for 3-year-olds and up. This race is this is kind of one of those amalgamations of a lot of horses who aren't quite stakes quality, but kind of knocking on the door, if you will. Strong Quality to me leads the bunch. He's the lone speed in this race and has been freshened up since August. He should appreciate the class relief because he's been running in Grade 1 stakes over the summer. So he will likely have control of this race from the get-go, being the lone speed. And I think talent-wise, he is probably the class of the field. So I really like Strong Quality in this spot. Street Ready has some back class with the stakes placing in the Fort Lauderdale at Gulfstream. And he has some solid optional claimer efforts at Keeneland and Saratoga. So now he's with Mike Maker, and that's Mike Maker stretching horses out on turf or running them in turf routes is a specialty of his. And so I think Street Ready offers some pretty good value and does run up near the pace. So if the strong quality falters, he'll be in good position. Big Blue Line is second off the layoff for Paul McGee, and his barn is going well right now. That's the main appeal. He does have some back class to indicate that he belongs here, and coming second off the layoff, going back onto turf, I think he's eligible to move forward. So I think he's in the mix. English Tavern has always been one of those horses, a cut below graded stakes level, but a serviceable horse nonetheless. And he's a pretty good fit here. He comes off of a good optional claimer win, and he is second off the layoff, so he does have the right to improve. I think he'd probably be more likely for under. Good governance, you could probably say the same, very similar to English Tavern. He's a cut below stakes level, but Firing Fresh is when you want to get a 7-year-old, and that's usually when they put in their best work at this stage of their career. And he is capable of putting a solid effort together that would be very competitive here. So good governance, hopefully it gets some decent value. But he's another one probably more likely to be under. And we'll throw Henley's Joy in there as well, mainly because he's trained by Mike Maker, and he is coming off a pretty good effort last time. I'm not sure he has the top end to win this, but the main thing is he's the lone closer in the race. And as we know, that when you're either the lone speed or the lone closer, a lot of times that offers you some nice advantages, particularly traffic-wise. It can, and closers tend to operate better when they're all by themselves. Now, I don't think Henley's Joy is necessarily a win candidate here, but I think he's one you can think about, particularly for filling the bottom of your exotics, and hopefully you can get a price. The fourth leg of the late pick 5 is the 10th race, and it's the Chilukki Stakes. It's a grade 3, run at a mile for 3-year-olds and up, fillies and mares. And this is, as you can see on the left-hand side, you've got a lot of horses who want to do the same thing. And obviously there's going to be a couple who are odd men out, if you will, or odd women, sorry. Hidden Connection is the lone speed, and I think the cutback in distance is certainly going to help the cause, you'd have to say. I had a good effort in the Locust Grove behind search results, though the rest of the field was pretty weak. Firing Fresh, and so I think that and the one turn for a front runner, I think helps the cause. Not sure if she's got the top end to take this one down, but will be the controlling pace, and that'll just be a question of whether she's good enough. Nostalgic was really inconsistent in her career early on, but seemingly has put it together since Saratoga. Had a couple of nice efforts there in some optional claimers, and ran a pretty good beldame in her last one versus Randomized, who we saw run a really nice distaff in the Breeders' Cup. So there's some class relief here, and if it's Bill Mott, he'll definitely have this one ready. And has done well at the one-turn mile, so I think Nostalgic is an obvious player in here. Uve is a win machine. This one is just, 19 out of 22 starts in the money. Loves to win and loves to compete. Turf, dirt, doesn't matter. The couple questions I have are, it is graded stakes, and I think that she meets the bill class-wise. We don't know if she can handle a mile, but you'd have to believe that one turn, just on class alone, I think she'll be able to get it. It's going to be right off the Hidden Connections throat latch, and then it's another question of whether she's good enough, but she's pretty intriguing in this spot. And Brett Calhoun is 27% turf to dirt, and you get Tyler Gaffleone. So there's a lot of things to like about Uve, and I think is a must-use in this spot. She Can't Sing won this race last year, and they're sort of following, in many respects, the same training pattern that gave her a break before this race. Her last race was on turf prior to the layoff, and it did produce a win. But the waters are a little deeper here, I think, and I do question whether or not she has the top end to handle the likes of Nostalgic or Hot and Sultry or even Oov. So She Can't Sing is Braganza. I kind of feel the same way about. I think it's entirely possible that if they lay off the pace significantly enough, that they might be able to mount a charge, but I don't see them winning. I think underneath is probably more likely. I'll give She Can't Sing a little bit more of an edge over Braganza because Braganza hasn't run graded stakes before and has shown some flashes. And the one turn I think is a good fit. I'm just worried about the class a little bit more. Hot and Sultry, I think looks awful good here. You can't, I mean, the Norm Cassie, Ricardo Santana jockey trainer combination has just been lights out for a while. And Norm Cassie has really put himself at the forefront of trainers. He's had an awesome year, and I think he's only going to get better. Hot and Sultry gets the main thing is you don't have Secret Oath or Clairiere in here. So there's big time class relief. She's shown very good two-turn speed, and I think that'll translate really well to one turn. And I think it'll be welcome. She's won at the distance before at Churchill Downs. Going to have to work out a trip from the 9-hole, but I think she has, again, that two-turn stamina should come in handy in this race, and I really like her chances in here. If I had to pick one, I really like Hot and Sultry, but Oov is awful intriguing. It's just the distance is the question, but I could see her answering it very easily. So let's look at Hot and Sultry as the prime win candidate, with Nostalgic and Oov as the primary two competitors. Last leg of the Pick 5 is a maiden race, and it's the 11th. It's at 6 furlongs for 2-year-old fillies. This is an interesting one in that we got some horses moving from turf to dirt. We've got quite a few first-time starters, and a lot of them that don't really have a work tab that you can get real excited about. But we'll get into that. The first one we'll talk about is Misenchanted in the 3-hole, and Maximus Mischief hits at 23% first out. But Dale Romans isn't really known for firsters, but one thing he knows how to do is use speed. And the tab is a little light, but, given the sire and given Dale Romans, he can be a little sneaky at times. I think we can consider this one, but I do want a price if I'm going to use. Copper Drop is very logical, of course. Trained by Steve Asmussen. His barn hasn't been firing really well at Churchill lately, but this one looks pretty logical for this spot. Had a good debut on the turf. I don't think the dirt is going to be an issue. Kept on well. Broke really sharply to the lead and just got nailed at the wire. So I think Copper Drop is one that's a really good fit in here and likely be the chalk, and I think deservedly so. Looks like a horse ready to take one down. Adelique is had a pretty good debut, I thought, from the 10-hole. Broke very sharply, got out to the lead, and as often happens with first-time starters who were that keen at the beginning, they don't have it late. But kept on well enough for me to think that this one will improve with the second start. The problem is he's marooned outside again, so she's going to have to overcome that. So it's a bit of a tall order, but I did like what I saw in the debut, and with a little racing luck, perhaps that she can factor in this race. Velvet Kisses is another one that Eddie Keneally can throw out a firster now and again, and the tab shows some speed, but it is very light. and that is always a concern. You want to see at least a 5 furlong work in there, and works in general. So I think Velvet Kisses is one that could surprise, but I do want a price if I'm going to use a horse with that light a tab. And then Pretty Song is another one. Rusty Arnold was in a big time drought up until a week ago, and he got a couple of wins. So his barn is starting to heat up. He's another one who's not necessarily known for firsters, but one thing about G. Watts Humphrey, who's his primary client, he always has great pedigrees, and he gets good stock to work with. The tab shows speed, and in particular, the last work I thought was pretty blistering. If you look at the pedigree, being by Liam's map, probably 2 turns is more what this one will want. However, it's always nice to see that greasy speed on the tab for horses who look to be bred for 2 turns. So I think Pretty Song looks pretty good, pardon the pun, to me, and I think is one that we definitely want to consider. And I'll just mention a more prominent one for those of you who watched Copper Drop's last race. Probably noticed Cabernet, who's in this race as well. But the first start on dirt wasn't very good and really had a pronounced improvement on turf. And that lends me to believe that is the preferred surface. And that's kind of really the thing about her more than anything else. It leads me to toss. Just others appeal more, and I could see throwing her in there. I wouldn't talk you out of it, but I definitely want to see some value. But I think we have some pretty good candidates here, aside from Cabernet. I think Copper Drop and Pretty Song lead the pack, but one of those firsters could surprise that we mentioned. So here's what a ticket looks like for the late pick 5. In leg 1, race 7, a maiden race, we're going to use 3, 5, and 11. And then parenthetically, I've added the 9 and or the 12. And I'll leave it up to you which one you want to use. I think it's price dependent. And whichever one offers the best value, I would throw in there. And then leg 2, race 8, we're going to use 3 and 9. Leg 3, race 9, we're going to use 6 and 12. In the Chilukki Stakes, race 4, we're going to use 1, 4, and 9. And then in the final leg, race 11, which is a maiden, kind of the same as the first leg, we're going to use 6, 7, and 9. And then from the firsters, the 3 or the 5, I would just choose the one with the best value. So that would be 4 times 2 times 2 times 3 times 4. That's 192 on a 50-cent base. That's a $96 ticket. And I think we've got enough value represented in there that hopefully we can get a pretty decent payout. So that's the late pick 5 from Churchill. I hope our analysis helps you with your own wagering strategy, and I wish you the best of luck as always. We will have more postings later this week because there are a fair amount of stakes races coming up this weekend, so a lot to look forward to. So keep it right here for that. If you do like content like this, of course, please like and subscribe, and thanks so much for coming aboard. For those of you who already have, that's it from here. We'll talk to you in the very near future, and until then, be well.